Hi, I'm Andrew Fleming, a reporter with the Vancouver Courier, and I'm here today with my colleague Niamh O'Connor. Niamh is our go-to person when it comes to developing stories, and basically here in Vancouver, where to put people that want to live here is pretty much a never-ending story. Recently, the city floated the idea of having some thin streets. What can you tell us about how that went over?
Well, to give some background again, the city is working on 4 area plans in the city, and one of them is in Marpole. And they've been working on this plan for about a year and a half, having open houses and public meetings. And the plan will guide the direction of that community for the next 30 years and include things like development, parks, amenities, transportation, a lot of different issues. But in the case of Marpole, the controversy started in recent weeks over thin streets. The city released its draft community plan for Marpole, and in that plan included a plan for a thin street on I think it's a 5-block area on Ash Street. And so basically a thin street is where you cut the street in half, and half of it you turn into a narrow street, and the other half you use for either a building or a park. And so the concern in this case is obviously for building. So for many residents in Marpole, the idea of this thin street was the first they'd heard of the community plan. And so it created a huge amount of controversy. About 20 people got a letter from the city saying that a thin street was being considered for their block. So basically, potentially, there could be like a row house or something right in front of their house, and they would no longer have a corner lot. So there's a great controversy. Residents protested, and the city almost immediately dropped the idea. However, the fact that this whole controversy came up made residents aware there was a community plan being discussed. And so now they're upset that area, parts of the neighborhood, are going to be considered rezoned from single family to allow for multifamily use in terms of townhouses, low-rise buildings. And it's a very residential area, so a lot of the residents are very upset about that, and they want consultation extended.
Now, my understanding, the community plan had been floating around for a while. A lot of the people in the neighborhood just didn't seem to be aware of it. I mean, my understanding is part of the new Engaged City program is they're trying to get more feedback from residents. But I think some people sort of think that's more as an optics thing. They say they want feedback from the community, but when it all comes down to it, maybe not so much. Is that a fair assessment, or?
You know, it's very hard to say. I mean, to be fair to the city, there have been a lot of meetings. They have sent flyers to houses. They have bought ads. I've done a couple stories. But for whatever reason, people still didn't catch the message that consultation was going on. So there's obviously a flaw in the consultation process that this many people don't know about it, despite the efforts of the city to publicize it. But there's also a flaw in the process where the specifics of the plan don't happen till the very end of the process, and that's, when people find specifics, that's when they get upset. It's hard to be upset when you don't know specifically that there's going to be a thin street here, or this neighborhood's going to be rezoned. And after they released the draft plan, in this case, there were 3 public open houses almost immediately, which perhaps isn't enough time for people to get engaged.
Yeah, just back to the thin street idea, too. I would think there's not a lot of neighborhoods where you could even really do that. I mean, I think I live in the Grandview Woodland area. The streets are so narrow that if you're driving one way and somebody's coming the other way, one of you has to pull over, find a little nook to do it. And that seems like it was designed back in the days when, well, I don't know, I guess they didn't really expect it to grow so much. But surely there can't be a lot of neighborhoods where it would even be possible, even if the residents were cool with it. Is that?
I would suspect that's true. It's really hard to say. The city council had directed staff to look into opportunities for thin streets in the areas that are undergoing these community plans, which is the Marpole, Grandview Woodland, Downtown East Side, and the West End. The only actual specific street that's been identified so far, as I know, is the very 5-block street in Marpole. They haven't identified any other in any other neighborhoods, and I don't know if they will or if they won't. It takes a lot of technical work on the staff's behalf to actually find a location, and that's why it took so long to identify something in Marpole. I don't know if it's going to fly or not, and certainly I've asked the city where else this could be possible, and no specific roads have been suggested to me yet.
Well, they say you can't fight City Hall, but it looks like the residents of Marpole at least have one small victory for now. We'll see more on the story in the future, I'm sure. All right, thanks, Steve.